There is a mistake almost every retiree in America is making right now, and the cruelest part is that it does not feel like a mistake at all. It feels like being careful. It feels like being responsible. It feels like exactly what you spent 40 years training yourself to do. And Ray Dalio, who has spent 50 years studying how money actually behaves across time, has been pointing at this exact blind spot for years. So let me just say it plainly, right at the start, because I am not going to waste your time. The mistake is this. You are guarding your savings so carefully that you will never actually use them. And while you guard them, they are quietly shrinking in a way you cannot see on your bank statement. You are losing twice. And most people never notice either loss until it is far too late to fix. Quick honest note before we go further. This is financial education, not personal advice. What I am about to walk you through comes from long documented research and from Dalio's published framework on how money holds or loses value over time. Your situation is yours. Talk to a licensed advisor before you change anything. Good. Now let us get into it, because the first half of this is uncomfortable and the second half is the part that actually helps. Here is what the research keeps finding over and over, and it surprises almost everyone who hears it for the first time. Most retirees do not run out of money. Most retirees die with the large majority of their savings still sitting there untouched, not spent, not enjoyed, not given away on purpose. Just left because they were too afraid to use it. Read that again because it goes against everything you have been told. The entire retirement industry is built on one fear, that you will outlive your money. That fear is real. It sells books, it fills seminars, and it keeps people awake at 3 in the morning. But the actual data on how retirements actually end tells a very different story. The typical retiree gets to the end still holding most of what they saved. They spent decades building it and then decades protecting it and never gave themselves permission to live on it. Economists have a name for this. They call it the retirement consumption puzzle. People retire with money and then spend far less than they safely could for far longer than makes any sense. And the reason is not financial. It is emotional. After 40 years of your identity being built around saving, the switch does not flip. The muscle that made you successful, the discipline that got you here, does not know how to turn off. Every dollar you spend feels like a dollar of security you just gave away. Let me make this concrete, because I think everyone watching knows a version of this person. There is a man, 73 years old, worked his whole life, retired with a solid amount put away, more than most people ever manage. His children have been asking him for years to come visit, to travel, to take the trip he always talked about taking. And every year he says the same thing. Next year. Money is tight right now. You never know what is coming, and his account balance has barely moved in a decade. He is not poor. He has never been poor. He has simply never once given himself permission to be anything other than afraid. And the terrible arithmetic of it is that he will almost certainly die with nearly all of it. Having spent the last 20 years of his life feeling broke while sitting on money he was too frightened to touch. He did not fail at saving. He failed at the thing that comes after saving. And nobody ever told him there was a thing that comes after saving. So let me ask you something, and I want you to actually answer it in the comments because I read them. In the last 12 months, was there something you genuinely wanted to do and could afford to do and did not do because a voice in the back of your head said, "What if I need that money later?" Type yes or no. That voice is what we are talking about today. Now here is where it gets worse, and here is why Dalio's work matters so much for you specifically. Because while you are sitting still, carefully guarding that money, doing what feels like the safe thing, that money is not sitting still. It is shrinking, not on your statement. The number on your statement stays the same or even goes up a little, but what that number can actually buy is falling quietly every single year, and nobody sends you a letter about it. This is the entire foundation of Dalio's work, and it is the thing almost no one explains properly. He has spent his career studying 500 years of monetary history, and the single clearest lesson he draws from it is this: money is not what you think it is. The dollars in your account are not a fixed thing. They are a claim on stuff: groceries, gas, heating, medicine, rent, and when governments run large deficits for long enough, that claim gets watered down. Slowly, invisibly, but relentlessly, the dollar count stays the same while the dollar itself gets smaller. So run the math on your own life because this is not theoretical. Let us say inflation runs at a modest 3% a year. Not a crisis, not a collapse, just ordinary, unremarkable inflation. At that rate, your purchasing power is cut roughly in half in about 24 years. Read that slowly. If you retire at 65 and you live to 89, which is entirely normal now, then the last years of your life are being funded by money worth half of what it was on the day you retired. Sane bounds, half the life. And if inflation runs at 5% instead of 3, that halving happens in about 14 years. You do not even make it to 80. And I know what happens when people hear a number like that. It stays abstract. 24 years, 50%, it sounds like a statistic. So let us make it something you can feel. Think back to what a full cart of groceries cost you 15 years ago. Think about what you paid to fill your car. Think about what a decent dinner out cost, or what your utility bill looked like, or what you used to pay for the insurance you now dread opening. You did not need an economist to tell you those numbers moved. You watched it happen. You had been living inside this the whole time. Now project that same experience forward from today for the rest of your life. That is not a forecast. That is just the same thing you already lived through continuing. And the money you are guarding so carefully has to survive all of it. Here is the part that should genuinely stop you. Your savings account is paying you almost nothing. Meanwhile, the price of everything you actually buy keeps climbing, so every single month that money sits there. You are losing ground. Silently. There is no red number on the screen. Nothing crashes, nothing warns you. Your balance even looks reassuring. It just quietly buys less bread, less medicine, less heat, less of your own life every year forever. That is the cruelty of it. It does not take you money in one dramatic event you could react to. It takes it one slice at a time, so slowly that most people never notice until half of it is gone. Now put the two halves of the mistake together and you can see the trap clearly for the first time. You are too afraid to spend your money, so you leave it sitting in cash. And the longer it sits in cash, the less it is worth. So you become even more afraid because now you can see prices rising and your account is not keeping up. So you spend even less. So you protect even harder. And the harder you protect, the more it shrinks. That is not a plan. That is a spiral. And at the end of it, you have neither the life you could have had nor the money you thought you were saving. There are two kinds of poverty in retirement. Everyone worries about the first one, running out of money. Almost nobody talks about the second one. Dying with money you were too frightened to use that was quietly losing value the whole time you were guarding it. The second one is far more common, and it is the one nobody warns you about. If you're still with me this far in, you are already doing something most people will not do, which is look directly at something uncomfortable instead of clicking away from it. So stay with me, because here is exactly what is coming. First, I am going to show you the 3 reasons your brain does this to you, and I would bet real money that at least one of them is you. Then I am going to give you the way out, and I am going to be specific about it, not vague encouragement. An actual structure with 3 buckets and the actual instruments that belong in each one, straight from Dalio's framework. The same logic he uses to hold value through decades. Nobody can predict. By the end of this, you will know exactly which of your money is in the wrong place and what belongs there instead. So what actually causes this? Because if you understand the mechanism, you can break it. And there are 3 specific things happening in your head right now, and I would bet almost anything that you are experiencing at least one of them. The first is that your identity never made the switch. For 40 years, you were a saver. Every raise, you saved more. Every windfall, you saved more. Every windfall, you saved more. Every good decision you made was a decision to defer. And then one day, someone tells you that you are retired now, and the rules have completely inverted, and you are supposed to become a spender. Nobody trains you for that. Nobody hands you a manual. So you keep doing the thing that worked, long past the point where it works, because it is who you have become. The second is that the fear has no ceiling. Ask yourself, how much would be enough to feel completely safe? Whatever number comes to mind. When you get there, the number moves. It always moves, because the fear was never about the number. The fear is about uncertainty, medical costs you cannot predict, living longer than you planned, being a burden, and no balance in any account fixes uncertainty. So no balance ever feels like enough, which means you guard the money forever, right up until the end. The third is that you are measuring the wrong thing. You look at the balance and the balance feels solid because it barely moves, but the balance is a number and the number is not the truth. The truth is what it can buy, and that is falling every year, and nobody puts it on your statement. You are watching a dial that does not measure the thing you actually care about. So tell me in the comments, honestly, which of those three is you? Number one, the identity that never switched. Number two, the fear with no ceiling. Or number three, watching the wrong number, just type 1, 2, or 3. I am genuinely curious how many of you recognize yourselves here, and saying it out loud is the first step toward doing something about it. Now let us get to the part that helps, because I did not make this video to make you feel worse. There is a way out of this, and it starts with a shift in how you think about what your money is actually for. It starts with one idea. Money is not a score, money is stored life. It is the hours you already worked, set aside, waiting to be turned back into living. And a dollar that gets guarded until you die was not saved. It was wasted. It was hours of your life traded for nothing. Once you see money that way, the question changes completely. You stop asking, how do I keep this number from going down? You start asking, how do I make sure this money still buys me a real life in 20 years? Completely different questions, leading to completely different decisions. So here's the first practical shift, and it is the simplest one. Separate your money by what it is for, not by how safe it feels. Because right now, most retirees have one pile, and the whole pile is treated like it is needed tomorrow, which is why the whole pile sits in cash. That is the error. Some of your money is needed soon. Some of it is not needed for 20 years. Those are not the same money, and they should not be treated the same way. So do this. Take out a piece of paper and actually do it. Because the people who act on something act in the first few minutes, or they never act at all. Draw 3 lines. On the first line, write down roughly what you will need in the next 2 years. Your living costs,